All right. Oh, a few people are checking in. Verity's here as well.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're live.
Sweet.
Welcome, TJ.
Thank you very much. So
Hello,
excited to be
everyone who's
back on this.
checking in as well. My mum just gave a little wave. She wanted to say hello.
Tell her I said hi.
So, my friend, you've been well?
Yeah, I've been really good. Just finished a few trainings and now working on website and online stuff as much as possible. Like everyone else stuck inside.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
trying to do work and stay active.
Exactly that. We're like in April, in 22nd of April, recording this, and you're in Japan, 1 week lockdown. We're in the UK with 4 weeks in of lockdown.
Yeah.
So you're in Japan. How did you end up there? Because obviously you're normally residing in the States, or you're a global citizen anyway now, aren't you? So
Yeah, it feels like it. Like little trips to like the UK is a little trip to me now. Like it feels like a commute because I just do so many other trips everywhere. So yeah, it feels like a world citizen. But so I was from like February through March, I had 3 trainings, and it started in Cardiff in Wales, and then from there I flew to New Zealand and had a training. So these are each 10-day trainings. So the next one was in Auckland, and then from there I flew to Sydney, Australia, and then took like a 6-hour bus ride to like a beach town called Forster, um, and did a 10-day training there. And I was kind of like each step of the way, just like right ahead of how the corona stuff was starting to shut down countries. So each training got finished like just before that country like shut down. And then after uh, Australia, I was planning to visit family in Tokyo. So I was going to just be here for 5 days and then fly back to the States. And I had like a couple of months off where I was just going to like focus on like digital computer stuff for the next trainings. Um, and so I got out of Australia. Like a few days later, Australia started to shut down, and like the US just started to get all scrambled. So Tokyo was actually normal. Like Tokyo, like people were going out, people were going to the parks. It was cherry blossom season, so it was like gorgeous out, and the stores were all open. So it just kind of seemed like they had kind of squashed everything, and it was just chill here. So since I was with family, I was like let me just extend this a little bit until the US gets itself together. And that was like a month ago. So I've just kind of been hanging out here exploring for about a month now,
yeah,
but loving
no,
it. It's amazing here.
it sounds so good in Japan. I've had quite a lot of friends now who've been to Japan, and they just said it's unreal. Like, just seems so cool. And
It's amazing.
and have you tasted much of the food? Like, did you get an opportunity to go to like restaurants now, or were people like kind of shutting them down or not?
No, I mean, like I said, everything's open. I mean, at this point, they're in lockdown, so the restaurants are just takeout mostly, but some of them are open. All the food places are open. But just in the time I've been here, like I haven't really been eating at restaurants too much. Like I've found, and my sister had told me this before I got here. She's like 7-Eleven has like amazing food, which is like just this tiny little convenience store, and like so you can get like really good fresh food from like any place you go. Like so I get just a lot from grocery stores. They have like different rolls of like rice and like tofu wrapped around it, which I like in the States too, and like different like California roll style things, which is kind of my favorite. So like I've just been living off of that and cooking at home, of course, too. But lots of mushrooms I've been cooking. They have so many good mushrooms at the grocery store. So I just like grab whatever I can. Like I don't even know what they are, just to
Yeah,
bring home and cook. And then matcha, anything matcha that I can get my hands on. They have like matcha ice cream and matcha cookies and matcha like whatever. And I'm usually a pretty big ice cream eater. Like I try not to unless it's like holidays. Like, but when it's matcha flavored, I'm like, I've got to get it. And so it turns out, this is turned into a longer story, but it turns out matcha has a lot more caffeine than just like drinking regular green tea. So I'll eat like a matcha ice cream bar at like 5 at night, and I'll be up till like 3 in the morning, like can't fall asleep. So it's been a blast, like just exploring those simple little things. It's just been so much fun. So yeah, the food's amazing. I've been to a couple little places and got like some like vegetarian kind of dishes and some noodle soups and stuff. And I mean, it's a dream come true for me being here, because I've always wanted to come to Japan, and I've always put it off because I'm like, I won't be able to spend the time absorbing the culture the way I want to.
Yeah.
And so this has been kind of like a blessing in disguise, because it's like I've been like just soaking it up. I learned that they have, so stop me if I go on too much, but like I'm just
It's
so
good.
excited about all this stuff. So they have 3 alphabets here, which I kind of had heard of. Like they have hiragana, which is 46 different, like the way we have like the English alphabet of 26. They have 46 letters in hiragana. Then they have katakana, which is 46 letters. And then they have kanji, which is what most people think of when they think of like Chinese or Japanese, like pictogram kind of writing. And that's like thousands.
Yeah.
So it's blowing my mind, but I've been studying like as much of the language as I can. And I've for the most part memorized the hiragana, and my brain's about to explode. And now I'm like trying to get onto the katakana, and it's just like, it's amazing like how much there is to learn here.
Wow, that sounds incredible. That's like in India a little bit, you know, there's like, I can't remember how many languages it was. I think it's like over 100 dialects in the whole
Yeah,
country.
it's wild.
Crazy. And then you got Sanskrit, of course, like you say, which is more, you know, oh no, they're all written like that anyway. But anyway, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I'm pleased you're
it's
having a good time. I really want to go one day to Japan. It seems like incredible. So one day I'll
yeah,
for sure.
it's
You
miraculous.
need to get a training there. You need to do a training there.
I've been trying. I tried last year and I almost had one, but we started to realize how expensive it was to have a translator for like 10
Oh
days
yeah.
of like 10 hours a day. Was really expensive to hire a translator. And so if I can learn the language, that's going to take a while, but I got to look into like how to figure out the translation stuff. But yeah, it's amazing. And
Nice.
there's just so much to see here in general. Like yeah, I would come here again. I don't vacation places. Like I don't like travel just to see a place, but I would come here again in a heartbeat. Like there's like alleyways that at the end of the alleyway is a shrine, like a legit full-on Shinto shrine. And you just walk past it and you wouldn't notice. Like if it's like in New York, if you walk past an alleyway and you look down it, and instead of garbage cans, you saw this gorgeous shrine at the end of the alley. And it's just like they're tucked away, these beautiful ancient shrines. And it's like that kind of stuff to me, it's like living in like a Disney movie or something. It's
Yeah.
magical.
And how does that affect, do you think, the environment and the way people are? Do you think that permeates out to everyone, like these little holy spots and that?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like I haven't been here. Like I've studied a lot of Japanese culture just from books and stuff over the years, because like I've been interested in a lot of different things. But like being here and just starting to absorb what it's like to actually be here for the first time and interact with people and stuff is it's still too early for me to kind of know. But I mean, just the fact that they're in the city and that people go to them and still like do like different, like a bow or like a prayer or like an offering to them, like it's very unusual to see in such like a metropolitan,
Yeah.
technologically kind of New York City style city. Like because I saw that like when I was in Indonesia and Bali, like there's shrines all over the place, but like it feels like a very farm rustic land. Whereas like Tokyo is Tokyo, like it's literally like being in Times Square all around you all the time. And yet there's still that kind of like they don't bulldoze the sacred stuff, which I find remarkable that it survived, because every other built up country that really like gets to this level seems to just be like, we don't got room for this anymore, and like get rid of it. So
Yeah.
just the fact that it's there, I'm sure impacts
Yeah.
the culture. I'm not too sure how yet.
No, for sure. No, I'm sure it does, and I think that's really nice to hear, because it's almost as if like that they have advanced so much in technology, but they've still kept that authenticity of the spirituality of the country, which I hope doesn't happen. You know, well, it already kind of has in a way in the West, but I hope it doesn't happen even further. Like we start destroying churches and stuff, because
mm,
you know that would be real sad to lose those and not that I go into churches all the time, but I can appreciate the, you know, the energy that they give off. And you know,
Yeah.
there's still people in there, you know, who are practicing Christians and are raising the, you know, the vibration of that chapel or whatever. But if we was to
Yeah.
start knocking those down and having virtual churches, then it would be real sad.
Yeah. Yeah, there is something really special about like when you see a place that where spiritual activities happen, you're just like maybe not everybody that goes in there, but that place is made for getting in touch with something that you don't often do outside of that place.
Yeah,
So
sounds
yeah,
like a
it's
utopia
beautiful.
to me.
Yeah.
A modern utopia for sure.
It's definitely a unique thing, because I was talking to my sister about it, and I was like, the shrines are Shinto shrines, which, as far as my understanding is, like, and again, I'm like not by any means like know in any authoritative way any of this stuff, but just from what I've read, it's like a very, very old religion, like like way back in the day, um, when it was like a kind of what do they call it, like a folk religion almost, and it's maintained kind of its integrity of like its institutions for all this time, but it's based on nature and that kind of this, like things having spirits, like kami is the name, I think, for the spirits that exist in everything according to Shintoism. And so it's almost like in the States, like a Native American kind of based like religion from way back when, before like industrialization and stuff. And but in most modern countries, like that's been lost, you know. Like there's some places where I've seen it, like I said, like Indonesia and like Hawaii has still got, like, you can see a lot of that original culture that was there. And but in the States, it's just been like isolated and like pushed aside, or just completely like obliterated. And so like to see something that old, like what it looks like when it actually like continues to flourish side by side with development, is like, oh, it can be done. Like it's amazing, like that it's like someone did it, like someone kept the industrialization and they kept like that original root to like the nature spiritualities. And it's like that to me is kind of, I just love thinking about that, because it's like that's what humans have to offer, like is that connection to nature and their spirit. And if you lose that, like because you wanted more technology or bigger buildings, then what's the point?
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's almost like a shamanic outlook then, really, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unique. Like but I haven't seen any other, from the limited reading of shamanic stuff in different religions around the world, I haven't seen anything quite like it. But yeah, I think it does kind of like originate back from that.
Mm,
Again, I if anyone's interested in that, like I would get some actual books on it from people who know, but
yeah,
it's definitely worth reading about. It's pretty
yeah, no,
cool.
for sure. That's brilliant. I actually didn't even introduce you, TJ, because I just presumed everyone knew you as well. But, we've done one of these before, and TJ comes over to the Yoga Factory and delivers the 100-hour Yin training that we have. Next one in June, which obviously we're discussing now what will happen. But TJ's flying all around the world to do these Yin trainings and doing a remarkable job in spreading Yin knowledge and creating brilliant Yin yoga teachers. So if you want to check out any of his trainings, I'm sure TJ will tell us at the end where you can find them. But you can follow him on Yujmu Yoga as well, and he has all his info on there, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's who is in front of you today, and I was really excited to bring TJ on because we've got so much to talk about always, and so many nice things that are going on in the Yin world and in the yoga world that definitely need to be talked about as well. So yeah, that was just in case anyone didn't know who TJ was, because I forgot to introduce him.
Who is this guy sitting there
Talking about Japan.
talking as if he knows stuff? I know nothing, by the way, just to put that out there.
I know we kind of talked about it last time a little bit, but I think maybe just for anyone who's catching on via some other platforms, maybe we can just explain briefly, like kind of what Yin is from your perspective. You know, like there's so many different interpretations of all different holistic practices, but maybe you could just from your heart tell everyone what you think Yin Yoga is and how you interpret the practice of Yin Yoga.
Yeah, it's fun to be on here again too with a question that I answered last time, because I feel like my answer is probably going to be different, and that's kind of exciting, like because my perspective of what yin is, I think, is a little different. For one, like we were just talking about, like nature and that kind of stuff, staying in touch with it. And I think yin is really good at getting in touch with that nature that's inside you, because like we are nature. Because it's like yin slows you down. It's like just long held stretches. It releases tension. It puts you into a much more natural state. Like if you think of like a cat, I like using cats as examples now. Like a cat is not walking around with tension, like, but it'll jump on top of a bookshelf if it needs to, and then it'll just, like, when any danger is gone, it just chills out completely back to a puddle of fur. um and so I think yin is kind of like that. It's like getting people back to being a puddle of fur. um and it's a specific kind of approach to it, because it's not like people think of like, I just need to relax more, or like I'll just meditate, but it's something that's slightly different, because it maintains like working with your body and working on your body, stretching the tissues in a certain way, but also like your mental connection to your body and your nervous system and your experience of it, and how you interact with your body. I was thinking about it the other day, like you and your body, like you and whatever that is, and your body are kind of like this symbiotic relationship. Like it's like two beings, you know, you are one and your body's another organism, and you can live symbiotically with each other. But a lot of times people live kind of parasitically with their body. Not a lot of times, but you know, that's the kind of negative way to go, where you're just kind of feeding off of it, making it do things that exhaust it and wear it out. And like yin kind of brings you back to that, that symbiotic, like you both benefit from, your body benefits from you helping it to relax, and you benefit from your body being relaxed. So that's probably the strangest description of yin yoga I've ever given, but it feels very accurate for me nowadays.
No, it feels perfect. I think that I truly think that we just try to overcomplicate these definitions of what like these practices are sometimes, and there's no need to, because it's very simple. It is, you know,
Yeah,
like
be like a cat.
yeah, be like a cat, because they haven't got that ego or that
Yeah.
mind troubling them. They're just living,
Yeah, exactly.
stretching when they need to, drinking when they need to,
Yeah.
surviving. I think we've all gone back to a cat state now, you know, because we're all having to like have this primal instinct of survival. You know, naturally it has come out, and I know we know now from research that it's really important to be working in that more parasympathetic nervous system, and you know, and having that more relaxed state about us, both physically and on a, you know, energetic level. But I think with the coronavirus and our situation now, it's really teaching us how we can act a little bit like the cat would if he's jumping up onto a bookshelf or running away somewhere, how we can act in that parasympathetic nervous system, and actually, you know, we can react to what is going on, all of the different, you know, stimulus that is information we're being fed, but also on a personal level, if, you know, you're experiencing some challenges, whether that is just working at home, whether that is financial. I think we are going back to being a little bit more in that primal state. So I think this is why also it is so important to talk about yin and to talk about yoga during this moment, because not only are we like kind of backing off from the material world, but also we are actually going back to our primal state of survival, but knowing how to do that without stressing ourselves out and
Yeah.
losing the plot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like people's priorities have been forced to shift. Um, and the interesting thing is, like, yeah, I mean, there's like two paths to go on in this topic. Like one is like kind of political and on like a more like financial level for people and what they're dealing with. But the other is also like, can you like you were saying, can you face all of this stuff and still be in that parasympathetic state? Like, unless there's something like really dire that you need to deal with, like, because I think so many people are getting like a lot of information that kind of stresses them out, like either just by the situation that they're in and the circumstances they have to deal with, or because like they may be okay in certain regards, like it might not be affecting their lifestyle too much, but they're watching a lot of stuff from media that's kind of worrying their mind too much. And I like to kind of think of it like, if you get into these practices, like meditation and yoga and yin yoga, and you get used to what it feels like to be in that that kind of rest and restore mode and know how to switch into it, then you can go about the things you need to do. Like you might have to make lifestyle changes, you might have to make difficult choices, you might have to reprioritize things, you may have to face certain issues about your health or people's health around you, but you can do that in a way while still staying in touch with your body and your breath and that rest and restore mode of your system. And that's a tricky balance to figure out. Like, it takes practice, but it's possible. And I think it's so important nowadays with so much information that people take in and so many things like that people want to like rally against or like fight against or like struggle against because they think something or another needs to change. And they just get so stressed out that like it becomes, now you've got the thing you wanted to fight against, but you've also got to deal with, like, you've stressed your body out to a point where it's not functioning ideally anymore. So yeah, these practices are just like, they're literally lifesavers for that kind of environment.
Definitely. And I think that people will feel and understand how much of a benefit it's had once we actually finish this like lockdown as well. I think they'll realize that how much it's actually impacted them if they have practiced, because you become that resistant. It's like the layers, isn't it, of and the layers and the sheath of the body is like you build that certain resistance, and then you'll stay at that level of resistance, and your body will understand it and it will know how to work in that, like you're saying, in that state. And then when we go back, it'll be like we've built this level of resistance already, that anytime we can understand that state of calmness with madness at the same time. So I think it's a perfect way. It's like, I always think about when I was at the ashram, like we'd work 14-hour days, but we'd still practice and everything, and we'd learn how to be in that state of calm, but also deal with a whole load of things at the same time.
Yeah.
But until I left, I didn't realize how resilient I'd become to working and staying in a more of a calmer state. I'm hesitant as I'm saying that because my mum's watching, and I know that she most really won't agree with me always being in a calm state, but
I mean, we're human, you know, like
exactly. It's all learning. So I was hesitant there. You know, I had one question actually for you, TJ, which we talked about before quite a few times, but I think it's quite a nice conversation, is how do you find, because you're traveling a lot, you're always moving, so you're always adjusting. How do you find it adjusting to your new environment and practicing at the same time and keeping a level of concentration? Like, how do you balance that? Like, how do you, what have you got any advice for people with that? Because I think it's an incredible skill to have. And we spoke about it with the jet lag as well, you know, last time. So
yeah.
like,
Yeah. I'm like, each time I travel is like, I'm like trying to like refine. Like, it feels like it's never done. It's like, and I'm realizing that about a lot of things, like, is like, just the more you can realize, like, there's never an end state. And so I've started to look at my travels that way. Like, I'm never going to have it where like everything is perfect. I think I'd be bored if I did. Like, I struggle when I travel with like keeping a daily meditation practice. Like, partially because that's like my highest priority. Like, I put that above everything because I see how it affects everything else. So like I try, I mean, the one major obstacle is the time zone changes. Like I literally, like, I keep track, like, on my phone, like when I meditate each day, and kind of check it off, you know. And there are days where like the phone is like, oh, it's the next day, you missed one. And I'm like, no, I was in transit. Like, I lost a day because of the time zone change. And like, and trying to kind of like let go of that and just be like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I'll get in what I can according to like whatever the day is. So that throws me off a little. And then like, yeah, getting settled into each new place that I go to. Like, this last like February and March is the first time I flew to back-to-back trainings. Like, and I knew I was doing that to myself when I was scheduling last year. I'm like, let me just get a few out of the way, like in a clump. And I didn't know what that would feel like, but like when I went through it, I was like, okay, this is a lot of like transitioning and readjusting and recalibrating and trying to like find the time to meditate and get a routine going. And so what it becomes is like, an opportunity to just observe what's that like, you know, like it's kind of like what meditation is like. You don't sit to have a particular experience. You sit to have the intention to sit and to do the whatever technique you're doing over and over, and the experience is what it is. And like getting used to that, it kind of like it mirrors a lot of things in life, like the experience of trying to get my routine to be a certain way is the experience that it is that I have kind of started to enjoy observing and seeing like, oh, this day it really didn't work. I managed to get like literally some days it's a minute of meditation because I'm just like, oh, it's almost midnight. I didn't meditate today. Let me try to get something in before I like pass out from like exhaustion. And like, so things like that is like, you just kind of, you see what happens. If it's not ideal, you don't judge, like you let go of any judgments that come up in your mind, and you just know the next day you're gonna see what you can do differently if you wanted to change it. And that's kind of the best I can, that's the like what I get out of it at this point. And from looking at it that way, just like with meditation, like when you start looking at it that way, it starts to actually become more efficient, and I start to actually get more meditations in. It's the times where I'm like really resistant to like something, or trying to adjust to something in like a really confrontational way where it's like I have to do it. That's when I end up kind of like slipping a little bit in like how much I can make work. But like there's just little tricks I learned too, like on a plane. Like, I mean, people aren't flying too much right now, but like I'll like some days I'll use the mala beads because it's like my brain is just going to daydream too much. Like if it was a long day or too much like executive function, you know, making a lot of choices or teaching a training all day, I'll just get home and I'll just mindlessly kind of go through a bunch of rounds of the mala, and that'll be my meditation. And then other days I can feel that like if I just sit and do zazen and like focus on my breath, like that's actually going to relax me, and it's not going to be a struggle, and it's not going to be a daydream. Like I feel centered enough where like I'll just enjoy the experience of not having to do anything. And so I'll kind of take it day by day and try to adjust where I can, whenever I can. And like one of the few things is just the timer, like having a timer that I use. Like if I didn't have a timer, like my monkey mind would just totally be like, you don't need to do it today. Like, don't worry about it or something. So like I'll set a timer like on a flight or on a train ride, and just like put it on my leg. And I'm sure I look super weird, like people seeing me like with this timer, like running down, like just resting on my leg with my eyes closed. But like sometimes I have a half-hour train ride and I'm like, I'm going to be exhausted when I get home. Let me use this time meditating. Like, so that tends to be like the trickiest thing. And then other things I learned with all this travel is just like, the less I pay attention to time, like the less I try to make my day a certain way, the less I notice jet lag. I probably mentioned it last time too, or the less I notice that I'm not synced up with the place that I'm in, like my circadian rhythms or anything like that. I just kind of go with how I feel, and that tends to like serve me the best. I might have rambled a little bit on that one. Did that get to the core of what you were curious about?
Perfect. That's perfect. Because I kind of started thinking about it when I had a thought the other day and I know lots of people have asked this question, but I was thinking about like, what would a world be like without time? Because without time, there would be no restrictions with regards to like when you're traveling. It wouldn't be like you'd ever be trying to catch up on sleep. Essentially, you just sleep when you need to.
Yeah.
Because the days would automatically bring your circadian rhythm into the right place, right? So like I was thinking about what a world would be like without time. I think it would be quite chaotic, but I thought it was a really fun thought and something quite nice meditation to ponder on. And I've been doing it a little bit because it's like, well, what would it be like without time? Would there be money if there was no time? You know, it's an interesting thought because what would there be to work for? So it was nice because also if there wasn't time, then there would be no clear definition of when someone like died and what age. So there would maybe be less worrying about death.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started thinking about it, but I thought I'd mention it to you because maybe I thought you might have some nice.
Because it's amazing. Like thinking about time in this kind of regard is like one of the funnest things about meditation. Like it's yeah, it's a super fun like thing to start to consider. And so there was something that you said. I got lost in time there for a sec. What was I gonna say? But I think one thing like that I started to realize, I forget when this was, it was years ago. Like a lot of people get really frustrated when they wake up in the middle of the night because they become like hyper aware of time. Because it's like, if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you can't fall asleep again and you know you have to get up for work at 6 a.m., it kind of makes you freak out. Like, or a lot of people like tend to be, I'm not going to get enough sleep. And like, and I don't know when I started doing it, but I started to realize maybe it was when I was school teaching, because that's when I had to get up really early and be out by a certain time. And I knew my day was going to be filled with like 30 kids at a time, like going bananas in my classroom. And so like, I knew I needed my energy. And so if I'd wake up in the middle of the night, or if I couldn't get to sleep until really late, there was always like a panic button in my head that it triggered. And it was like, oh no. And I see in the trainings, a lot of people talk about that, because we like, it comes up in the morning sharing circles, like where people talk about what their sleep was like the night before, and like the feelings that they have, because sometimes they just can't fall asleep, or they wake up too early or something. And I find that's a good way to relate to time, because when you can stop worrying about that and just realize I'm going to have the sleep that I have, oftentimes you'll fall asleep easier.
Yeah.
And like, it's, you start to realize that like, it's just a number, like it's just an idea. Like if you don't have a certain amount of sleep, the only thing that actually makes you tired the next day, unless it's like multiple days of not sleeping, or like if you don't sleep at all, like your brain needs to do things in your sleep. So it's not like you can sleep deprive yourself on purpose. That's not going to lead to good places. But like, if you just have a night where like you didn't sleep, the thing that makes you really function less efficiently the next day is you're constantly thinking, oh, I'm tired because I didn't sleep enough last night. Like you're doing the math all the time. I only got 3 hours of sleep. That's why I'm so sleepy. Whereas like most of the time you go through dips and ebbs and flows in your sleep and how you feel the next day. Like for me, I think it's like lunchtime. I usually get kind of a dip in sleepiness, and it doesn't change that much if I only got 3 hours of sleep or if I got like 12 hours of sleep. Like I still have that kind of dip of sleepiness in the middle of the day. So like that to me is a fun way to start thinking about time and sleep. But yeah, if you really dig deep meditating on time and stuff like that and start to realize, I mean, it's hard to even talk about, because it's just the experience of meditation when
Yeah.
you're trying so succinctly to be right where you are, like right on your breath, and not get pulled away by anything. Like it does a weird thing to you. Like you yeah, like being in the moment's a trippy thing. Because it's like, without time, we don't know how to associate to things. It's
No.
kind of like you need, it's like the Tao Te Ching, where it's like you need tall to understand short. And if you don't have short as a concept, then tall doesn't really exist. It has to be relative to something. And like, I think our life and perception and time is the same way. If you don't have your memories from like 5 minutes ago, then you have no concept of like there being a future, or there being a further past, or there being even a present moment. Like, so if you start to kind of eliminate those things that you can relate time to, like past and future, and what you think about it happening next, and what you're planning for, and what you had happen that you remember, like, oh, I like that memory that happened last year or something. If you start kind of getting used to just being right here, like more and more narrow, I think is what like Zen masters are like. They're just like on a hairline of like the moment. And it's like, you just exist perpetually. Like, I think that's when people start talking about like immortality and enlightenment and stuff. It's not like your body and mind actually exist forever. It's that you have no concept of there being an end or a beginning. You're just in that moment so efficiently that like, when you're not in that moment, like when you eventually die or something, you have no concept of that, because you didn't like see it coming. It just happens, and you were just existing and existing until like you're not existing, and your mind has no concept. If you get to that point of like Zen mastery, Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this stuff forever. It's fascinating, but it's like, it, yeah, if you start dissecting time, like you can go on some really interesting sci-fi loops in your head.
Yeah, you really can. And I know it's like it's something we always feel in meditation because it's something we always, like you say, we're always transcending. But I think like the pondering of like where I was just asking where it come from as well. That was one of the questions I kind of came up to me is like, when did we start recording time? Like,
Yeah.
now when did we start saying Monday was Monday or Sunday was Sunday? You know, it's so crazy. And one of the reasons it came about, because we was talking about it, me and Jesse, was like, Sunday has such a unique feel to it. No matter where you are in the world, Sunday has a unique feel. You know, I don't know about you if you feel that, but I certainly do.
Yeah,
And even
yeah.
even in yoga scriptures, like it has always been this, like not old ancient texts, but more like modern, like texts on undertaking sadhana and yogic practices. It often talks about Sunday being that day of silence, being that day of solitude, being that day of self inquiry and study. And that's like, you know, like I've read that in books of Swami Shivananda from like, you know, 150 years ago, like even longer. So that's crazy, you know, like not 100
Yeah.
years ago, but like, you know, a long time ago to be reading that and him actually talking about like how Sunday is a holy day. But where did this come from, this concept of Sunday? You know, it's crazy. I think it's mental.
Yeah. It's definitely mental.
We don't need time, like, but like going back to what you're saying, obviously we do need time. That was a lie, but I think that it's so important. I think it's a nice meditation. It's an important meditation because when we are living in that moment and living in the present time, like time does go so quickly, and that is such a good thing. And I think often I have in the past like thought, you know, like there's no more hours in the day left. Like that's kind of a bum. But more and more now I'm realizing that actually it's a great thing that time transcended so quickly. It really meant that I was living in that moment, and then what will happen the next day is what is meant to happen.
And like when it goes by so quickly, like do you know, because like, do you notice every time you get really into that moment that it, in the moment, does it feel like it's going by quickly, or does it just feel like it went by quickly after the bell rings and you kind of look back on that experience?
Yeah, I feel like when the bell rings, it went quickly, but in the moment I didn't realize it. But it wasn't that I was really
Yeah.
conceptualizing time because I wasn't thinking past or present. So maybe that's
Yeah,
why it didn't feel quick in the moment, you know?
that's why it's fascinating. It like it slows down the experience in a way, but it speeds up the, like when you later analyze the experience, or like, yeah, it's this trippy like dual kind of thing happening, like without concept of time, like you're not experiencing like, oh, this is going by quickly or this is going by more slowly. Like it's only afterwards that it's just like, I didn't expect the bell to ring like all of a sudden, like,
Yeah.
and then you get back into like looking at your past memories and stuff and things like that. Like it's really fascinating.
And I think that's what the practice of yin gives so much compared to some other physical yogic practices. Maybe hatha yoga, I would say, definitely also gives somewhat this experience, but I feel like yin gives that experience of like sometimes when you're holding a pose or a shape, you feel as if it is going on forever. But also when it is the end of the posture and you say, okay, that's been 10 minutes, it's like, whoa, that was quick, you know? So you almost have that experience and that illusion that time is something is taking such a long time, but actually you're concentrated and you're centered, and it's been 20 minutes since you've been in this pose, by the way. I think
Yeah.
yin gives that to people automatically. That's what's so beautiful about it. And that's what I love about yin is like, you can really like manage through releasing that tension, and you'll be able to shed more light on this than me, through releasing that tension in the body to just naturally slow the mind down. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Like it it's so engaging, like, and you can tell like some people like, because not every yin session will feel the same. Like there are days where like maybe you get a little bored during the class, like, or during the yin session, and it's like, and that's because your mind is like won't engage with your body, it's just engaging with like thoughts, like, because I'll have those days where like I'm like, why is this not happening, you know, like, and then it's like, okay, I kind of have to like force myself into the sensation I'm feeling and like really start to like look for the threshold and what am I feeling and like really get into it. And then it just kind of takes over. It gets like its own momentum, and it just like keeps, it's that's why, like, that's how nature feels like when you go for a walk in nature or you spend time in nature, like, you don't, aside from maybe the way the sun might move, like you don't really have a concept of time. Just things are what they are. And like, if your mind's really like doing things and saying, oh, I should be back home working, or I should do this or that, then it takes you out of that. But if you're just there with like nature, like, it's very timeless, and like your body is the same way. So like when you really tap into it, like with Yin Yoga or something, like it just kind of gives you that same experience of like being on the beach by yourself, like just watching the sun, or like being in the woods, like listening to the birds or something. Like, it's like going into your body is like finding that like nice little stream, like, or brook, like in the woods or something. It's really
Yeah.
nice.
And we need to find that like consistently more, I think, because we put restrictions on, I know, sorry, I'm not leaving the subject of time for some reason, but we put like restrictions on everything with time. And I think that with the practice of like yoga and meditation, we're allowing ourselves to go back to the root of nature. And that it's almost like, the way I'm trying to describe this, and I don't know why I'm trying to describe it, but I almost feel as if yoga and meditation allows me to reconnect with the rhythm of the universe and the planet. Because and why am I describing that as being important? I'm describing that as being important because we listen more, you know, we understand more, and we can feed off of those signals that the universe and time and the planet gives us to be able to work more harmoniously. And I think why I'm mentioning this is because recently I've been experiencing that, like, I've changed the way up my practice is in many ways. Because before I was very regimental. Like, I found that for some reason I was, well, I know exactly why. It's because of the conditioning from my past experience of living in the ashram. It is a very regimental schedule. But I'm realizing now that in this world, that is actually not impossible, but it's quite hard to live a regimented practice and sadhana, because we are constantly evolving. Like, this world is constantly evolving, and there is constant stimulus. So we have to adapt and adjust constantly. So I'm finding now that instead of like saying, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go straight to the cushion, I'm actually just waiting and sitting for a moment and actually saying, okay, what does the universe actually need me to do right now? And that might actually be like go and make some food or something or whatever. But I feel like the listening to the planet is making the meditation experience better, because when I come to sit, the mind is more focused. Whereas when we force something, it's like, you know, when we force a situation in life, then the meditation experience is going to be worse, because we're aggravating the mind even more. So whereas if I feel like I'll just move with the rhythm of the earth, then the meditation experience is better, because there is more of a connection to the rhythm and the pulsating of the earth. That was very like esoteric, but yeah,
That was awesome.
It's a time.
I get, so like, I don't know if I ever really had a regimented like meditation practice or something like that. So that's interesting that you have like the experience of having a really regimented thing where you try to like maintain a practice like very specifically each day at certain times and things like that. And now like you can compare it to like kind of like loosening up almost. Or
yeah, like for example today, I got up at 6:30 or something around that time. The first thing I thought about was meditating, of course, because I have this weird conditioning in my mind that that's the first thing I need to do. But actually, like, my experience of meditation today, like an hour or so after waking up, was much better than, you know, I know you can't compare meditation experiences, but I feel like that the meditation experiences I'm having by waiting and not having that regimental like mind and saying that that's it, meditate now, I feel like the experience I'm having are much more profound because of just allowing it to happen naturally. But yeah, like I've always had that. It's like, okay, wake up, bang, to the cushion, and it was always the same like timetable each day. Because like in the ashram, it would be like you'd wake up at 5:30 and you meditate at 6. Like that was it every single day. And And I'm
And
not,
you maintained that like afterwards?
yeah, I maintained that afterwards, like, but obviously in my own time frame, I made a time and that was it. And I think there is so many benefits to that because it builds discipline, like incredibly, like really does.
Yeah.
And I am a strong believer that if you meditate in the same spot at the same time, you can have profound experiences. But with that, I think that, you know, it is important to listen and to work a little bit more harmoniously with the rhythm of what is going
Yeah.
on. So I think it's creating a nice balance, because some people could easily cop out and like be like, oh, actually, it's got to 10 o'clock at night and I'm actually not
Yeah.
meditating.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
That's
there's
why I was curious, like your practice before that was so regimented maybe prepared you to have like kind of a more listening like practice regimen.
yeah.
Like I wonder if, like you say, if someone tried to go right into the like, I'm gonna do it just casually whenever I feel like it, like yeah, they might just kind of like get through the day and be like, I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think that it's important to have both. I think it's important to look at both and look at routine and to look at, you know, yeah, having that regimented lifestyle, but also having a loose listening about yourself. And I think that, again, like I said to you before we even went live, I think that's what the Yin training gave me. And so thank you to you for that. And thank you to the practice of Yin for that, because it really allows you to develop this listening that other practices, other in particular hatha yoga practices, don't always give you, because there is this focus on like, okay, do these postures, you know, hold it for this amount of time. And I'm not saying that everyone is like that, but often it is, you know, and that doesn't give room for observation and listening and contemplation in many ways. It's kind of almost opposite to what you're being told to do in meditation. You know, is it like, you know, okay, yeah, whatever practice and technique you use, there is always an element of listening and watching and coming back to the stimulus. We've almost gone the opposite direction with some asana practices. Is like, okay, do what I say, and like this is it.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Like
what
programmed like robots.
yeah. And Yin's a beautiful practice for that, to be able to listen in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Like when you start to like mix and compare some of the different practices and what you can get from different ones, and once you start having like a lot of different things to choose from, it provides you more things when you do listen to your body, or when you do listen to the nature that speaks through you. You have more options to give it what it needs, you know, like, because there might be some time when like you want something really regimented, and like there might be like, because I know I go through some weeks where like it'll be a few weeks of me like really specifically meditating at a certain time every day,
Yeah.
and then there'll be a certain day where that just like completely falls off a cliff, and it's just like Wild West. Like I'm meditating like random times throughout the day, and so it's interesting, and different practices too, like the more regimented kind of practice, there's probably certain times where your body just needs that, because your brain is just like, I can't think, just like tell me what to do. Like, so it's really neat when you have a lot of different like resources, like
Yeah,
different practices.
and I think there's time for that time of regimented practice. Like I know you've gone off and done a little bit of solitude. Like for example, during quarantine now, like I'm gonna take a week of pure practice, but and during that time there will be I'll set a schedule in my mind, but that's not to say that I want to live that every single week, you know, going forward.
Yeah.
And I think there's time for that. There's time for those spurts of introspection, but I think that just the way we're living now, it's impossible to have that all the time.
Yeah.
I guess
And
we
it's
can with that.
interesting, like you can there's a difference between like when you script and like kind of try to plot out an artificial kind of schedule, or have someone else do it for you, and when it happens like organically, like from your own like inherent like knowledge or self, like because like having like I'm staying with my sister and her three kids, and like watching the kids and how they react to like different routine, like which I was used to as a school teacher, like the way it's like if you give like a certain routine, the kids kind of acclimate to it. And like the smallest, like the baby here is like just like not even a year, and we realized today, like she can't talk obviously, but I was like feeding her a snack earlier because she was hungry, and then she was kind of like trying to get me to like take her to place, like she'll just like reach in a direction she wants to go when you're holding her. So I was kind of like going to different like directions, and she led me to, there's a little like blow up like bathtub for her, and every day her routine is like you eat something and then my sister gives her a bath. And so she like knew the routine, she like directed me towards, and when I finally like put her in the like empty bathtub, it didn't have water in it, and she just sat there and looked at me and was like, okay, I'm cool now. Like she just like smiled and like started like dancing and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like little humans, like before they've even gotten concepts of things, like they pick up on like natural organic routines if they're not like too rigid, you know. And like as we get older, like we kind of get like so rigid with our routines and so rigid with things we have to do that it just kind of like restricts and crushes like us. And whereas if we kind of just listen like a little baby pointing you where to go, like it knows what it needs next, you know. Like, so yeah, I don't know, that was just something that
No,
happened
that's a
today, that's
lovely
why
way
it's on
of
my
putting
mind.
it, for sure. That's a lovely way of putting it. Yeah, so break those molds, break those samskaras, impressions in the
Yeah,
mind, and go off on your own track.
yeah, and then see what kind of natural routine develops from that, like because those are the ones that really like serve you so well and like feed your soul.
Yeah, definitely. What's for you next, TJ? Last time we spoke, I can't remember what you said about. I think you was developing something in your mind, but what's next in your chapter?
Always developing something in my mind, so I don't know what it could be like from last time. I hope I followed through on whatever it was from last time, but like at the moment, yeah, I'm not even sure if I could pinpoint it down so much. Like,
It's a hard time to think about the future, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's a very like rich creative time, it feels like,
Yeah.
but also very unpredictable for obvious reasons. Like, so it's kind of like, I mean, I've been focusing a lot on like refining things more than creating something brand new, really. Like trying to like really refine the curriculum, kind of thinking about how it's expanding, like different things I'm trying to develop in making the curriculum into something that offers things after the first 100 hours, and like like just what else I can offer to graduates, and what else I can put out in the world, or how I need to adapt to like the certain conditions that we're in now. Like, so it's a lot of those kind of things, like seeing what resources are available in terms of like what I've already developed or what other people are doing or need, and then just seeing like, okay, how do I fit with that, or how can I steer that in a certain way. Like, so yeah, it's a very like creative time, but also it's not like anything brand new that I'm working on. It's just kind of like I just redid the whole website, and I'm really excited about like all the designs that I did for everything, and the whole new design direction that I went in, like because that's like my creative outlet. Like, um and then with the 3 trainings I just did in a row, it was a lot of like analyzing how, like you asked me about how I travel before, like one of the technical things is like just how I can fit everything I need into carry-on luggage because I don't like checking bags. I like being minimalist. So like that's what I've been kind of entertaining my mind with. Like, it's like, okay, can I get this stuff into a smaller bag? Like it's already carry-on, but I'm like, can I make it less? So I'm like researching like lightweight jacket materials and things. It's just that kind of stuff where I feel like it's a time to like, I've got everything in place that I want in like the broad picture. And it's like, now it's just like, how do I make it each of those things better? So it's kind of, it's very chaotic, but productive at the same time, trying to minimize and refine things.
Nice.
How
Nice.
about you?
Um,
You told me you had some stuff to share that I'm like, you teased me with some kind of like special announcements or something. I'm
yeah.
curious what they were, like things you've been up to.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, well, so back in January, I had this like little thing happen where I'm trying to think if I told you, but maybe I didn't. But the guy who kind of founded the Shivananda organization, he got accused of like sexual assault and sexual harassment.
Yeah, you told me about
I
that. That
did
was the
tell
last
you.
time we talked. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. It was. But then obviously that was like in that moment. Then I was very. I was kind of sad, I guess. I got really uninspired with the practice, like so uninspired. I didn't want to, I felt almost as if I didn't want to teach ever again, you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty painful. But since then, I mean, we're 4 months since that happened, nearly 5. So it's been, you know, as they say, time is a healer, whatever time
Yeah.
is. But, you know, life is a healer. And I feel like just during this quarantine, I've had time to reflect on how I've come out the other side of that. And I think it's been an amazing, enlightening experience that happened to me, you know, because I was so hooked up on that was the only way forward almost. You know, I was still open to listening, of course, but I was very much focused that could be the only answer to enlightenment, or the only answer, not that I'm striving for enlightenment, but the only answer to a balanced well-being and to other people's solutions, that should be the way they live and teach. And it just opened me up to so many different doorways of things, you know, and I think the yin was definitely the catalyst of that happening, the yin training, because that was the first part of me actually exploring something else that I actually quite liked. So I think now it's like, not that my practices has changed, but it's very much transformed into, like you said, me listening to myself, like, and what I need and what I should require of myself in a way. And even that's transformed then the way I deliver my stuff. So I think it's just an exciting time, because I'm really excited to see what happens next and how I can like take what I've learned and learn more things and give that to people. So it's like an exciting time of expansion of the way I deliver things and the way, you know, I guess I get my message across, because we've all got our own individual message of what we really were saying. I think as humans, we only have a certain amount of stuff that we really can like process. I think, you know, I think we only have a library of stuff in us. I'm a true believer of that. And you know, that can be great, like that can be wide. Your brain could be massive and your soul could be massive at the same time. So like, I'm not restricting on how much people can learn, but I'm just saying I think there is only a certain amount of stuff. So I guess it's like being more creative of how I can get the knowledge that I've somehow obtained through, I don't know, past lives or this life, out to people in a different creative way. So it's been such a cool experience to experience that. And there's, you know, there's been experimental stuff, and, you know, like the way I've taught classes, maybe, you know, it hasn't worked. Some of the stuff I've done, some stuff has, but it's nice to put those feelers out there and see what happens. And through that, so much opportunity has come about. So it's strange. Like sometimes you feel like you're riding with the wave, but actually you're going against it. As soon as you go with it, then, you know, you catch a really good wave and you're surfing on it. So it's cool.
What do you mind like some things that you tried that didn't work and some things you tried that did work? I'm curious, like as far as like teaching goes, like.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like experimenting a little bit with like more like subtle practices such as yoga nidra in my own personal practice.
Nice.
Because I went on a really cool yoga nidra workshop with a guy called Dr. What's his name now? Nalipta Tuli. He was really cool. And I found it a really profound experience for a number of reasons. But one was that I couldn't actually really stay with the yin rotation always. Like my mind would just drop into a state of pure relaxation, and I couldn't keep the subconscious there. Or maybe he said that the subconscious would have been there, but you're just not aware of it. But I wanted to deepen that experience. And so I just started teaching it in my classes a little bit, but I had a little bit of feedback. Actually, some people are in here actually. And I tried it a few times in my class, but it kind of didn't really need it. You know, it didn't need that extra juice. Like it had enough in what I was delivering already. So I just guess I've been wanting to refine what I'm already giving to people. I've mixed some yin in with the more active yang practices.
Cool.
I was actually going to speak to you about that at some point, but that's been interesting. Like people have found really good results with that. I've spoke to students who I've taught that to, and they loved it. I haven't really done it recently online because it's kind of a bit harder. I kind of like to feel it in the room, so it's not refined enough. I've done it a little bit in my own practice. It's interesting.
Nice.
It's an interesting combination. I don't know if you've ever tried it, or maybe you mixed it with the qigong a little bit or something, but kind of, yeah, it works because I think that the type of class I deliver already has an element of quite a lot of yin in it. Just it would be an anatomical difference in the sense of where that there's most probably a tension point. For example, in the forward bend, I can't remember what you call it in yin now.
The targets or threshold?
No, what do you call the forward bend in yin?
Caterpillar.
Caterpillar,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, so for example, in caterpillar, you know, like you'd have the feet relaxed, like totally, and the legs relaxed, kind of almost. Whereas in hatha yoga, of course, you pull the toes towards you. I think like there's only really one or two subtle differences in that, and that's the feet, the activation of the feet. So really, like everything else is relaxed, like kind of shoulders are relaxed, upper body's relaxed, head's relaxed in a hatha yoga style and a yang style. Whereas yin, everything's relaxed. So there isn't that much difference, and we hold it for a long time. So I think just that difference of relaxing some of those areas in the body and then activating them, it just creates a weird, nice balance.
Nice.
So I've been
That's
experimenting with that. And also I did, I'm rambling now, but I'm just telling you, but I did.
No, it's good stuff.
So I've never really been a visual person. So I always thought in my meditations, I never get colors, I never get visuals ever. Like, just like, doesn't ever really seem to happen to me yet. But I did a shamanic journey, right? We hosted a shamanic journey for guys at the yoga factory. We did drunk cacao, and then we did a shamanic journey. And I was like, I'm not going to get this. Like, I'm not visual. Like, this isn't going to happen for it. I had the most craziest experience ever doing this shamanic journey. Like, it was all about going into the spirit world, down into the spirit world and up into the spirit world, something like that. And I can't really remember. I don't know loads about it. If you want to learn about shamanism, then definitely speak to other people more qualified than me. But when we went into this lower realm, we went in and I was seeing everything like clear. Now I'm speaking to you, I can see it in my mind. I can see everything that happened then. And it was like 2 months ago in my mind now. And we was going into this world, and I met this spirit animal that appeared to me, which was a lion. And then he took me on this crazy, a spider, crazy journey. And actually,
your spider is another spirit animal.
Yeah, he just appeared. I went like that, and it appeared on the table. I'm not saying I have cities or anything, but I don't know where that came from. I think he might be a jumping spider, so maybe jumped off my shoulder. Yeah, so I met this spirit animal, and I had this crazy, like, have you ever done it, by the way, while I'm talking?
Yeah, I did it one time,
Yeah, and he took me on this journey, which was mad. Like, we went through, like, all of these different states, or all of these different climates. So it's like we went through jungle, we went through, and he wasn't telling any of this. Like, the guy who was leading it, this was just me in my mind. So the lion took me through, like, the desert, took me through the jungle, took me through, like, really cold place, all of that sort of stuff. And then he took me through, like, it actually really relates to what's going on now, I think, is he took me through this kind of place of, like, poverty and real gruesomeness and real, I guess, stoutness and, like, real foulness of life. And I experienced that in this spirit world, in this shamanic journey, and I could feel it, I could smell it, like really bad smells, really bad sensation, really bad energy. But at the end of that village, we've gone through different villages. At the end of that village came abundance, came, like, beauty, came, like, pleasure, all of those things. And it was kind of like he was telling me, like, it was almost like I felt like it was what I'm gonna go through at some point. And I really do relate that to, like, this current situation, and what has happened to me over the last 4 months in 2020 has been incredible. Like, it's been the most, eye-opening experience every month. I think, like, it's the first time I've been fully challenged in my whole life. And this, I guess, shamanic journey showed me that, but showed me that always at the end there's light. So it was crazy. I haven't been incorporating that in my classes, in my teaching anyway, but I feel like it's had a impact, subconscious impact somehow. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Those practices are crazy. Like, I really didn't think much of it before, like the shamanic stuff. As I said, I was very closed off to the way I thought and the way I did, but really I'd recommend to anyone to go and do a proper shamanic journey of the drum. It's really incredible.
Yeah. It's weird too. Like, the experience is so different than anything anybody can like anticipate, you know? Like even if someone's read about it and like they're just like, oh, that's for me or that's not for me, like when you actually try it, it's like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like everything you described, like yeah, like my experience was similar with a different animal and different like experiences, but it impacts you too, because you're like, oh, that came from me, or something not me, like that. Like it wasn't like a teacher like telling you like this, a guided meditation or something. And when it's not coming from anything external to you, you're kind of like, you listen to it, you're like, oh, I better pay attention to that. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's super cool. I agree. If anybody ever gets a chance to try it out firsthand, do it.
Yeah. And I think going back to that, like what we've basically been talking about the whole time, and it almost relates to the title that we subconsciously just put out there, like living with
Yeah,
yin. It's pretty much everything we've talked
the
about. But
power with yin.
yeah, like I've really started to take a different standpoint on what I guess the definition of yoga is to me. Like now I really realize that this really cannot be fully talked to you by anyone. It is purely an experimental journey of your own self. Like,
Hmm.
and I'm seeing that now that I've had, I guess, um, a human figure being destroyed in front of me that I trusted in so much. I'm realizing that, and this isn't a backlash or anything. I'm actually fully realizing like that, you know, yeah, okay, a guru is served to you or a teacher is served to you very greatly, and you must respect that. But at the same time, what they're saying isn't completely relatable to your own self. And you have to go in and do this work yourself. And you have to go in and figure it out yourself. And I'm realizing, I guess I've redefined yoga for myself as being a self-experiment. Like,
Mm.
I really, truly believe that. I think it's a real self-experiment. And I'm constantly, I guess, reminding people of that in my classes now, is like, you do what feels right for you. And I know that that's kind of almost a yin approach to postures in a way, but like really do. Like forever, I was so fixed that one anatomical variation is the same for everyone. And I've always, I always understood anatomy and like, bodies are different. But at the same time, like I fully like feel now that you've got to go in and you got to experience this yourself. Like it is a self-experimentation.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, even if you think about like yoga, they always say is translated like it means yoke,
Yeah.
like to like yoke and like kind of like merge flush with something. It's like you can't yoke to someone else's way.
No.
Like it doesn't work. You can only yoke to yours, and it's ironic that, I mean, people's paths might lead through doing other people's versions of practices, but it's eventually got to lead back to you just yoking to whatever you are, and maybe going through some other yoga practice taught by someone else or guided in a certain tight, stringent way will get you back to yourself. But yeah, like that's why I love, like I got so into Buddhism, because it's all about that kind of like that saying, like if you see the Buddha walking on the street, kill him. Because it's like you can't hold anybody to like to be more important than like listening to yourself and having your own experience. Like even Buddha, even your gods, even your gurus, like nobody's gonna, they're just gonna pull you away from like what you're here for.
Yeah, definitely. I think it pulls you away from the direct experience you're meant to be experiencing in so many ways. And I value so many people who do their own thing and just like live the way that they want to live. Like I think like respect to you, because that is definitely like important way of being. Like I have quite a lot of friends who I guess just live, like live in a van and just live and just park up anywhere they want and do what they want, and and eat when they need to, and wash when they need to. And I kind of almost like fully respect that life. Like it's not what I need, it's not what I want for my personal self, but they're not letting anyone tell them what they should or shouldn't be doing. And I think that's an important way of being.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the irony though is like, because this is something that I always try to remind myself of, is like even like listening to other people's tell you what to do, for some people is their thing, is their what they need, is who they are.
Yeah,
Like there isn't any wrong way to like be you. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like that's what really trips me out. It's like because there's a tendency to like feel like that the freedom and everyone should just do whatever, and like that works for some people and is their path and their yoga. And then like the 9 to 5ers in like an office cubicle are some, that's their jam, you know, like
yeah,
that's what
no,
they
for
want.
sure.
They might change someday and be like, no, I want to like do this or that, like more freedom, or they may wish for it, but like you are living what you are. Like you can't do it any other way.
Definitely, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And
Trippy.
my mum always said that to me. You know, sometimes you're meant to work for someone and have to be guided by someone. Sometimes you can do you're meant to be your own person. And I think there's different personalities, different ambitions, and different realities is important to reflect on. No one
Yeah.
is the same. So yeah. Oh, TJ, it's been amazing, mate. You got
Yeah, I
anything
love
else to
this
say
stuff.
to everyone out there? I don't know. I'm sure someone will watch this at some point. It's going to be on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. There's never really anything that summarizes it all too well. I think last time I said just let everything go or something like that.
Yeah, you said
But
something
just
nice, and we ended it on that.
yeah, just keep letting go. Keep
Let
going.
it go.
You don't have to carry it, man. Put it down.
Yeah, you can find TJ via the intranet on www.
Yujmu.com, yujmu.com.
Nice. Everything's on there. Everything.
And
And
it's
then if
fancy and new redesign.
yeah, and no redesign. And if you fancy a yin training in June, then we're there. We don't know fully yet how it's going to pan out. We're going to meditate on it over the next few days, but we could be online. We could be physically there. Who knows? So yeah, keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, we could be in the spiritual realm teaching the training. Who knows?
We could be without time or space. TJ, thank you so much, man, for logging on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to chat again.
Yeah, and thanks for listening, everyone.